Alright, we are recording and hopefully I can keep this short because it's quite late, but I need to get recordings done. I still got time, but not as much time as I like to have as a buffer between recording these and them going live. Anyway, Chapter 2, as I mentioned at the end of the previous video, because I did look ahead a little bit, we are now with Chekhov on the Reliant. We do also have some with both Carol and David Marcus. And I really like how David is introduced, by the way. Excuse me. And also then on Alpha SETI 6, not SETI Alpha 6. I'm probably going to keep saying SETI Alpha 6, though, because it comes off the tongue more easily. But anyway, some of that, and including the Botany Bay, and then, yeah, them getting caught. Anyway. So the first note that I have concerns something that I do actually find a little curious, and it will be interesting to see how it's explained in the book. There is an explanation that works, but yeah. The Reliant is referred to as this old bucket, and Pavel Chekhov, on duty on the elderly ship's bridge, finished his log report and ordered the computer to seal it. So the Reliant is being described as an old ship, whereas the Enterprise is not. I mean, there's been no description of it that way, and I wouldn't think you would describe it as that way. Not yet, anyhow. And yet, hang on just a second. There. Just trying to take care of some stuff so I can... There. Take care of some stuff on the desktop. There. Okay. So... There's a line later in the movie which is Spock saying, and I may have it a little wrong, she outruns us and outguns us, saying that the Reliant is, at the moment, superior to the Enterprise. Now, this is after they had been damaged, so it might be, in our current situation, Reliant outruns and outguns. I always thought of it more as, no, the Reliant was actually a more powerful ship than the Enterprise. That it wasn't so much the damage, because they had affected some repairs, and the Reliant itself had been damaged at this point as well. That it wasn't that the Enterprise had been brought down, it's that the Reliant and the Enterprise should have been competitive, and having never seen a design like the Reliant before, I would always think, oh, it's the newer design, so it's more advanced. This contradicts that. But as I said, it can be explained as just the Enterprise is that heavily damaged, but we'll see when we get to their actual encounter to see what explanation is given then. So yeah, they're on a mission to try to find a lifeless planet. Lifeless planets abounded, but lifeless worlds of the right size, orbiting the proper sort of star within the star's biosphere, in a star system otherwise uninhabited, such planets were not so easy to discover. They inspected 15 promisingly barren worlds, but each in turn had somehow violated the experimental conditions' strict parameters. So SETI Alpha 6, they really hope... I'm going to keep saying wrong. They're really hoping we'll do it because they're getting so bored, and that is definitely a theme of the first third of the chapter. The computer search Chekhov had done on the SETI Alpha system turned up no official records except the ancient survey. It's 60 years old. That's not ancient. It is later stated it's 60 years old, but anyway. Of an automated probe. He had been mildly surprised to find so little data, then mildly surprised again to have thought he had ever heard of the system. By the way, it's also mentioned there are 20 planets. Well, actually, here, yeah. The probe data showed 20 planets, 14 small rocky inner ones, 3 gas giants, 3 outer eccentrics. But what Reliant saw on approach was 19 planets, only 13 of them inner ones. So we're getting to the whole... They were put down... Khan's ship was supposed to be put down on one planet, now he's apparently on another. How is that explained? Where's the missing planet? This is mentioning it there. But one thing I do want to add, just the whole... The naming of an eccentric planet. 3 outer eccentrics. I like that description. I think that's a better description for Pluto and Charon than the nonsense of being like, we're just going to declare these things as dwarf planets. Before, and I think the mission had already been sent. New Horizon, wasn't it? Wasn't that the name of it? I think that mission had already been sent out, but we hadn't gotten data back, and it's like, it's a dwarf planet. Then we get that data, and I do remember at least one person made the point of, we we're seeing, essentially we are seeing things on Pluto that we did not expect, things that you would think you'd only find on a planet. We really should not, we should not have defined what a planet was until we actually, defined this thing as a dwarf planet until we actually observed it. Because the expectation was Pluto would basically be this, would be a completely lifeless body. And totally inert. No, there is in fact like ice flows and such on there, which suggests energy that Pluto so far away you'd expect just frozen ball of ice. No, it is, there are things moving there. It's like, what? Yeah. Kind of a shame that we didn't. I don't even know if there is another mission to follow up on New Horizons. But it's kind of a shame that we couldn't like try to have something orbiting it. Anyway. But yeah, so there's the acknowledgement that there's a missing planet. But there are two possibilities. Alpha Ceti was surveyed by one of the earliest probes. The data wasn't always completely reliable, and some of the archival preservation has been sloppy. It's also possible that the system's gone through some alterations since the probe's visit. Doesn't sound too likely. Well, no, sir. 60 years was an infinitesimal distance in the past, yet you called it ancient. Astronomically speaking, the chances of any noticeable change occurring since then were very small. Probe error is a fairly common occurrence, Captain. So, yeah, it's like, yeah, that's weird, but it's probably just this, so not gonna worry about it. Moving on. I do want to mention, though, that it seems very odd that there would be no reason for Khan's the Space Seed mission, the Space Seed story, to be so classified that it wouldn't be in records. That, in fact, just that the Enterprise had visited the system. Like, that at least should have been recorded, even if you did want to hide that, hey, turns out that megalomaniacal guy that tried to take over the planet so many centuries ago, turns out he's still alive and has a bunch of followers. I can understand that maybe being kept quiet. But it's still, yeah, the Enterprise visited here. And there's also the whole Kirk, as is mentioned later in this, at least according to the movie, Kirk did promise to come back. There should have been some sort of anthropological mission set up to visit the planet every now and then to see how they were doing. Which, again, you couldn't have it too highly classified. So, yeah, it is touching on unreasonable that they would be so unaware of the situation there that it's in fact human life there. Then we get to because they've been on Reliant trying to carry this mission for so long. Was it actually here? That there's a lot of thinking about it, and the crew is not in a good place. The morale's really low because they're not achieving anything. And it's also Chekhov is starting to think about things as well. He, Captain Terrell, was no James Cook, but maybe that's what's wrong, Chekhov thought. I've been thinking about the old days on the Enterprise too much lately, and comparing them to what I'm doing now, and what I'm doing now simply does not compare. But then, what would? So, basically the Enterprise was really exciting. This isn't. I really should not hold that against this because the Enterprise was likely the outlier. Alright, so they pick up something on the sensors, which we see in the movie. And then Terrell contacts Carol Marcus, Dr. Carol Marcus, to find out, basically, can this be close enough? We want to be done. But she is not happy with that, in that, especially if it is prebiotic, even, something that early, that we cannot disturb it, which I get the whole idea of, well, may become life, so we can't. But one issue is prebiotic does mean it is not alive yet. That, well, okay, I don't know. Maybe there is a specific scientific definition there for what is and is not prebiotic, but technically prebiotic can just be, hey, we got a mix of chemicals that, if things just happen to align perfectly, we get a protein. We get an enzyme or something that will start, that is a precursor to life, or the very start of life. It's like, okay, that's nice, but chemicals just sitting around kind of is a thing. I'm saying, at what point is that significant enough to actually be life? I feel like I'm getting beyond technical here. It's more just prebiotic. Well, what does it actually mean? Which, I mean, they're basically just trying to give cause for an ethical debate here. And it's like, yes, in that way, what they're saying is completely right. I'm just being a little obsessive. But she's basically like, no, we can't, because who knows what we're going to be disturbing. And he really, really wants to get this done with. Captain, the project won't be ready for the next stage of the test for at least 3 months. There's no pressure on you to find a place for it instantaneously. She stopped. The unflappable Clark Terrell looked like he was about to start tearing out his very curly, handsomely graying black beard. Wrong thing to say, huh? Doctor, we spent a long time looking for a place that would fit your requirements. I'd match my crew against any in Starfleet. They're good people. But if I put them through 3 more months of this, I'll have a mutiny on my hands. They can take boredom, but what they've got is paralysis. I see, Marcus said. I do like this because the characters are changed a little bit in the movie. In the movie, it is not so clear. The scientists as a whole seem to be treated as just anti-military. She's much more sympathetic, and much more reasonable as well. David less so, but we'll get to that. But I do like this, where she recognized I just said the wrong thing, didn't I? It's like, yes, you did. But her point of view is, to her, everything is exciting. She isn't there with them. And even though, where is it? Excuse me. There's a one point he was philosophically indifferent to her requirements for the Genesis site, while she was ethically committed to them. And she is somewhat sympathetic here in that she does seem to recognize that. She does understand that. And she isn't dismissive of him necessarily. In fact, I would even drop the necessarily. I'm just kind of couching myself here. I don't think she's being dismissive of him at all, to be honest. But it is, she just sees it as it's important enough to just move on and keep trying to find that perfect world. But it is that issue of it matters enough to her, it doesn't necessarily matter to him, and she's not thinking about the morale of the situation either, which is something plenty of people can be guilty of, where it's like, hey, aren't you having fun? It's like, no, this isn't fun, and you're not involved with this. How do you don't understand it? It's like, well, yeah, but I'm still telling you to do it. It's like, she might not be understanding the bad morale, but she's not being dismissive of his situation. Anyway. So basically there's a question of, okay, can we transplant it? If it's prebiotic, no. What if it's not? What if this is a life that's about to go extinct on its own, that the environment is about to kill it? What if that's the case? Can we transport it then? Would you approve transplantation then? I can't do that, she said. She chewed absently on her thumbnail, but stopped abruptly. You're a little too old to be chewing your nails, Carol, she thought. You ought to at least to have cut it out when you turned 40. Maybe when I hit 50, she replied to herself. But just to continue with this, do you leave any room for compromise? Terrell asked angrily. Well, wait, Captain. I'm sorry, I didn't mean that the way it sounded. It isn't that I wouldn't give you a go-ahead. It's that finding a species endangered by its own environment is a fairly common occurrence. There are established channels for deciding whether to transplant and established places to take the species. So it's basically saying, I wasn't saying that I won't allow it. It's that's not my call. Sorry, I didn't mean that. And she is sympathetic here, but it is just, I got my rules and regulations, you've got yours, you've got your priorities, I've got mine, and it's just, that's what's happening, but we'll figure this out. Interesting. But his spit fell on the screen, and I really do want to figure out how to clean it at some point. A good way of cleaning. Okay. I'm just checking. Okay. I did not miss anything in my notes. So, next highlight is when we actually do get David showing up. And it was he was philosophically indifferent to that whole thing. She could imagine how Reliance crew referred to her and the other scientists in the lab. A bunch of ivory tower eggheads, test tube jugglers, fantasy world dreamers. She sighed again. Mother, why do you let them pull that stuff on you? Hello, David, she said. I didn't hear you come in. Her son joined her by the communications console. They're lazy, he said. They're bored, and if they found something that really does need to be transplanted, come on, Mother, it's the military mentality. Never put off tomorrow what you can put off today. If life is beginning to evolve there, I know. I'm the one who wrote the specs, remember? So I do like this introduction for David, because you get how he is totally being contempt towards the military, towards Starfleet. In fact, even that, just the fact that he is referring to them as the military, not as Starfleet, is important there, because this is one thing that I do think some people occasionally will forget. Starfleet, yes, they talk about how, ours is a scientific mission. That's a purpose. No, you're a freaking military. You are. It makes the most sense, though, for you to also have a strong scientific aspect to you, because you're also the ones most capable to do the scouting, so you're the ones most capable to do the scientific research as well. It's like, you are by name, your nature, Starfleet's nature, is military. But they've had to expand purely because that nature makes them the most capable of achieving these other goals as well. So him only referring to them as military is him basically saying none of the rest that matters. So him just being, they're lazy. It's like, dude, you have no idea what they're going through. Shut up. It's like, he is absolutely that a ivory tower egghead test tube juggler fantasy world dreamers, most of that, and ivory tower egghead, which, by the way, I'm not even sure how much that's real. I'm sorry, it's just, for one thing, there is no such thing as the ivory tower. I've said this before, I'll say it many times again, even though I do know some of these people. Sorry, but there is a reality that there is no ivory tower. Everyone is subject to their own biases to some degree or another. For some people can reach the point of being aware of their biases, that even if they can't get rid of it, they can at least acknowledge it and just work through it and not let that significantly interfere. But I would doubt the ivory tower. I would doubt how many people are in science that are truly in the ivory tower, short of like people that are not to the, well, that are high functioning autistic, that just genuinely only see the work in front of them, are super focused on that, and none of the other stuff matters to them. These would be the people that they never are concerned with grants, because they're not the ones doing it, they're doing the work. It would be somebody else managing the grants. Because certainly the moment you start having to deal with grants, I think you'd have to realize that, yeah, we're compromised. A grant does compromise people, yes, because it does mean that there is somebody that you owe work to. And guess what? Those people, they're giving you the grants because they want a certain result, not because they want the work done. They want a certain result. Even when it's the government giving you a grant, that's what's going on there. There's always more motives than just your own involved. And there's nothing inherently wrong with that. Let me be clear. But thinking that you are free of those other motives, thinking that you yourself do not have any ulterior motives, it's like, that's the problem. That's those biases where it's like, you got just be aware of it and move forward. I actually saw something recently that supposedly somebody has concluded that it's actually better if scientists lie Not really. I mean, the way it was being presented was certainly biased, but essentially the idea that if you were to, in scientific research, expose all of your ties, like who provided the grant money kind of thing, that if you exposed all that, that would lessen people's trust in it. It's like, no, I'll bet that's false. You may have been asking the question in a way that isn't fair, but I'd say a key aspect to it is, and I'm saying this in part because I have a decade of reviewing video games. And now I don't know how many people necessarily cared about my reviews versus anyone else's, but I would always say if the key was provided. I would. And some people think that compromises, and I'm not just saying this because in a lot of cases it is how I got the game, was the key being provided. But people say that compromises you. It's like, no, it really doesn't. And I don't think you have an understanding of what is involved with getting a key for you to say that. Because, like, I'm just trying to think. What would I want to say? Like, not 9 times out of 10, because it's way more common than that. It would be like 99 times out of 100. You're getting from a PR company, in like a PR firm. You're not getting it from the developers. You are maybe getting from the publisher, because typically publishers handle the PR. Not always, but typically they do. Or it's a PR firm. But those aren't people responsible to the developers, or responsible for the development. So where's the bias there? I mean, I can understand being biased towards a developer if you have any communication with them, but it's still, if it's just, here's a key, and sometimes you're being told, like, yeah, there are these bugs, and hey, here's a guide to help you know, like, here's the controls, here's some stuff that we think you may find useful. It's like, I would look at those guides just for the bugs. I'd also look at controls, but listing of bugs, like, okay, also sometimes they will give information on stories, which is very helpful because, like, okay, how do I spell somebody's name? It's like, that's helpful. But that's just a resource, and it's like, all that could be, we're not allowed to, is under NDA, but all that technically stuff that could be publicly shared and no one would care. I mean, it would basically be what you get in a game manual, is what was being provided. And it's like, there's no, that doesn't lead to a direct conflict of interest there. And we'll also mention this. There was one time I actually did review a game where I knew somebody who worked on that game. I just didn't talk to them the entire time, which was easy, that I was reviewing it. Only mentioned it later to them that I had reviewed the game. This was after the review was already published. So I had finished the review and it had been published. But the thing is, how I knew the guy, it's like, now, if anything, I'm more likely to attack the game because of him. Not less. What are you talking about? But it's also, it's like some of the games I did purchase myself, and I would then say, I purchased them. If you can find that because I purchased a game, I was harder on it versus it being provided to me, if you can find evidence that, have fun, alright? That's all. That would be great if you could find that, because you're not. And it's not going to be the case. The one game I can think of where you might be able to say, oh, you bought this game and you talked really bad about it, you didn't like it. It's like, yeah, did you read the review and see me explain why I didn't like it? That's my point. I mean, it's like, if you read the review, you'll see why I don't like some of the games. Anyhow. But that, going back to that thing that I had just seen, talking about, we need to lie or at least hide this stuff. It's like, no, you don't. You just need to be honest and transparent. But an issue is, a reviewer, we're there. Like, in theory, somebody can put stuff in the comments on these videos, and I do try to respond. I might not always be able to, but I do try to. And at least if I see them. YouTube hasn't been sending me emails, though, so I'm having to look at the notifications, and hopefully they appear. But I don't know why I'm not getting those emails. Sorry. But with a scientist, that's not really the case. Research papers, unfortunately, they're not written for normal people to read. So it's like, and also some of them, the concepts in there can be so esoteric that even other people in the field might not be able to understand them. So it's not one of those, oh, it's better if we hide it because then they'll trust us more. It's like, well, no, it's because you're not, the product you're producing, which is the research, or rather the research paper, it is something that does, the format of it doesn't allow openness already. So you being open is a problem. Not directly that, oh, we shouldn't be open, but because it's the rest of it is approachable. It's not like somebody's going to sit down and read that and understand. They're just going to be like, oh, well, you got paid by that, so you're biased. It's like they can't sit down and read the thing because you're not writing it for lay people to read it. You're writing it to impress people. So you get more grant money and to show off to other people in the field that, hey, check out what I wrote. And the funny thing is, and I have seen this, it's been a while though, the use of scientific jargon in research papers is only a little bit more than 100 years old now. Prior to that, a lot of research papers were written so lay people could read them. But then scientists started throwing in the jargon, which they had to invent because it was a way to annoy and show off against others in their field. Because if they start coming up with a jargon term that no one else knows, well, you should know. Continuing with this. Sorry for the aside, especially since I wanted this to be short. Yeah, David said, every time we have to deal with Starfleet, I get nervous too. There's so much risk, Kale said softly. Every discovery worth making has had the potential to be perverted into a dreadful weapon. Here's a piece of paper. This can be made into a dreadful weapon? It's how David thinks. He has total contempt for everyone but himself. He is completely that idealistic egghead that believes basically if we could just focus on science, there would be peace. It's like, that's not how it works. There is evil in the world. Well, in the universe, in this case, in the galaxy. And so, yes, you do need the military to be able to advance itself so that when the evil comes up, it can be put down. But anyway, continuing with this. Can be perverted into a dreadful weapon. My goodness, that sounds familiar, Carol said. David grinned. It ought to. It's what you've been telling me for 20 years. Serious again, he said. We just have to make it damn certain that the military doesn't take Genesis away from you. There are some who will try, that's for sure. And this is when we then get the overgrown Boy Scout you used to know. Kirk was not a Boy Scout. That whole line. And we do actually come back to Kirk shortly. But there's also the matter of, David, you're a freaking idiot. I mean, it's like, it could be perverted into a dreadful weapon. It's like, dude, the device literally somehow completely terraforms a planet, and if there's any life on it, will either mess it up, or the device will kill it. You've already made the dreadful weapon. It's not a perversion. That's what its existence is. It's whether or not it is used in one way or another. Plus, there's the whole, what's the even point of this? If that isn't, I mean, if you require so strict that they've been through 16 planets and still haven't found one, because even without Khan and his group being there, there's still the weird thing that, the lava going to the ear. There's still that there that makes that planet unsuitable for this. That's a lot of planets they've gone through that don't meet your specifications. Your research is basically useless because where can you use it? You can't find anything. And it was mentioned earlier, I didn't include this, that they had already gone through a list of all planets that were known to be uninhabited and uninhabitable. But hey, we found something there, so we can't use it. So they're going to they don't have good records on SETI Alpha 6. So, but hey, it's like, maybe it'll work, so we'll go check it out. They're having to pull out from the bottom of the barrel even. So yeah, I mean, it's like you're the one working on some sort of science experiment that doesn't really have any value to because you can't use it on anything, or it is something that can be used on more things, but will by its nature destroy those very things. You made the weapon already, dude. Okay, this is not like with the Manhattan Project, or rather the precursor to that, where they made the atomic pile, where at that point, that wasn't viable as a weapon. All it was doing was proving that you could create a self-sustaining reaction, which is enough for a power plant, but power plants use far, far less uranium, a far lower concentration of fissile material than a nuclear weapon. Nuclear weapon needs almost pure. That's a huge leap between them. David here, he's working on the ultra pure, and it's like, oh well, this we can't let the military. Dude, your literal work is on a weapon. He's gonna get this beat out of him one way or another, though, either in this book or in the next one. So we'll see what happens. So we do now get to Kirk, who is in his quarters, and we get some talk about the antiques. Oh, hang on. I do just want to finish with one thing with David. I really do like how his character is introduced here. Yes, he's pissing me off, but I'm liking the character here. He's pissing me off like I would argue with him if he were real. Okay, not in I don't appreciate how he's being presented here. The fact he is pissing me off like this, that it is, if he were here with me, I would argue with him. That's in fact a positive thing. That's how well I'm connecting with this character, how he's described here. And this is his introduction. It's like, good job. Anyway. A few of his antiques were alien artifacts, collected off-world, but in truth he preferred work from his own culture, particularly England's Victorian era. He wondered if Spock knew that, or if the Dickens first edition was a lucky guess. Spock making a lucky guess? He would be horrified. Jim grinned. I like that line. I really do like it, because the author is absolutely, I feel, getting the Kirk-Spock relationship here so on point. And is really nailing Spock as well. That, at least from my expectation for him. Yeah. Only last 10 years or so had the beauty of antiques overcome his reluctance to gather too many possessions, to be weighed down by things. It was a long time since he had been able to pick up and leave with one small suitcase and no glance back. Sometimes he wished he could return to those days, but it was impossible. He was an admiral. He had too many other responsibilities. It's not clear what these responsibilities are. At one point, there's a mention of like just moving lights around, moving data around. It's like, that's not the work of an admiral. Okay, that would be like some sort of technical officer. That could be a lieutenant. I could see it being an ensign. Yes. I was just trying to remember. Wait, no. I'm trying to remember what the ranks are. The Navy's different than the others, which is why I'm kind of caught. But it's like the enlisted men. So I know them for like the Army and Air Force a little bit better. So that would be the private, corporal, and sergeant. That could be something for them to do. I could also see lieutenants, so the lowest grade officer. But I'm trying to remember. Is ensign the lowest grade officer, or is it lieutenant for a Navy? Okay. Lieutenant commander, captain. Captain is the equivalent of colonel, so major, captain. Okay, yeah, so lieutenant is lieutenant. And a private is. Yeah, so I'm not sure then where ensign would have to be below that then. If I'm remembering correctly, it might not be. Oh yeah. I was trying to remember, why did I get on this tangent? Because yes, this is not the work for an admiral. Anyway, what they're describing there. I mean, some admirals maybe, but not just generically. It's what Admiral Kirk would be doing. No, his work at Starfleet, where he is basically teaching, that absolutely makes sense for an admiral to be doing. But that's not moving data around. That's not moving bytes around as it's described. That is, he's teaching. Yeah. Okay, so he gets the gifts. McCoy shows up. He gets the gifts from them, starting with the Romulan ale. Its electric hue was appropriate. It's electric blue. He felt the jolt of the first taste, as if the active ingredient skipped the digestive system completely and headed straight for the brain. But moving on, he's given the other gift. Strange. He had not had any trouble opening Spock's present this afternoon. A tremendously funny idea struck him. Is it a tribble? He started to laugh. Or maybe some contraband Klingon? It's another antique for your collection. McCoy said, Your health. He lifted his glass and drank again. So, yeah, I just want to check. Okay. So Kirk, initially, he, just, like, sees the glasses and it's like, oh. Okay. Oh, hinges. Interesting. And then eventually McCoy comes over and is like, yeah. And presumably like this, and then Kirk's like, oh! Spectacles! Okay, I've seen a picture of these in my books. There we go. So it's... You do have that there. You do also have the line of the whole, why are we treating yours like a funeral? And it is, this has nothing to do with age. It has to do with you jockeying a computer console instead of flying your ship through the galaxy. Spare me your notions of poetry, please. I've got a job to do. Bull, you never should have given up the Enterprise after Voyager. So this is a reference to the motion picture. It's then a little odd how it's written after this. Yeah, I'd have made a great pilot, Bones. That's bull, too. If you'd made a few waves, they wouldn't have had any choice but to reassign you. Well, okay, I guess it's saying to reassign you to the Enterprise, but it just seems... how it was written was odd. Because it wasn't clear to me when I had first read that that's what Bones was saying. Because I was reading it like... I mean, he had the Enterprise. Kirk was in command of it. He lost it, so had any choice would have had... they wouldn't have had any choice but to reassign him. It was like his assignment was the Enterprise. I guess it's just what to accept it was temporary, sufficiently temporary that he had to give it back. But it also just lost the captain it was supposed to be getting in Decker. So it's like it's a weirdly written line that I guess it's just ambiguous enough that I was reading it as like, well, that was his assignment. You're talking about him losing it being a good thing. What? Yeah. Anyhow. Then we get a little bit, what are you hiding from? From yourself, Admiral. Jim held back an angry reply. After a long pause, he said, I have a feeling you're going to give me more advice whether I want it or not. Jim, I don't know if I think this is more important because I'm your doctor or because I'm your friend. Get your ship back. Get it back before you really do get old. Before you turn into part of your own collection. I have talked a fair amount about the relationship between Spock and Kirk thus far in this book and really liking that. One thing that I will acknowledge is McCoy is part of the trio. But McCoy is odd because, I mean, like, he seems more like the elder. He's trying to give advice to Kirk. And I think, well, DeForest Kelley was older. I don't remember if canonically if Bones is supposed to be older than him or not. But it is still one of those things where I can see how it is harder to get what is special about their friendship. I can understand that. And this doesn't necessarily help a great deal there. Beyond just the whole... McCoy is probably the only one that is allowed to say such things as these to Kirk. Uhura would not be able to... but she'd probably be the next closest. Sulu and Chekhov. Scotty would be ahead of Sulu and Chekhov. But Scotty wouldn't. Purely out of deference. Because Scotty is an engineer. He's not... You leave him in the engine room, you talk to him only when you need to talk to him kind of thing. It's like, that's it. You don't need to worry about... He doesn't necessarily... He's a good friend, I don't doubt it, but it's like, that's... Nope. Give me my engines, that's why I'm happy. Don't need to be around people, need to be around them. For her, I could see being better, being able to do it, but her character has also got a certain degree of deference to the captain that I can just believe that would be it's not my place. McCoy, being the ship's doctor and having responsibility for their morale, for their mental well-being, he would have legitimate cause on that degree to do it, but also he is a friend, and so he can do it that way. So, yeah, but it is still... as I've said previously, Spock and McCoy are like, they're not angel and devil, but like two halves arguing with each other, and Kirk has to negotiate between them. But McCoy is already nearer to who Kirk is, so it is harder to see that the separation there and what makes the relationship special. Spock is so different, it's very easy. So, yeah. Moving on, we now get to the third part of the chapter, which is back on, well, it's, okay, I'll just read this opening line to it. The wind nearly knocked Chekhov over as soon as he lost protection of the transporter beam. Ceti Alpha 6 was one of the nastiest, most inhospitable places he'd ever been. Ceti Alpha 6 was worse even than Siberia in winter. There's more than that, too. I just like that, yep, we're going to continue with those jokes for Chekhov. Sweat when and Terrell is with him. Sweat ran down the sides of his face. His nose itched. No one yet had invented a pressure suit in which one could both use one's hands and scratch one's nose. It shouldn't be that hard. And it did lead me to think, did I account for that when I put together design for one in A Letter from Catherine? I don't recall. I do know that I did talk about multiple designs, and the one I actually talked about specifically in that Roman wears. It is much closer. It is not nearly as bulky as what you do see in the Wrath of Khan movie. It's still, he wouldn't necessarily be able to, like pull his arm inside and touch his nose, but it does seem like, yeah, you absolutely should be able to, especially with some of the hard suit designs that they've got, where it is more like you are just manipulating controls for grippers. So in that case, I would think, oh yeah, you can pull a hand in and do that. But in theory, I could also see it being if you're in one of those suits, the situation is focusing you enough, you might not even notice such an itch. But anyway, the idea of there being sweat, though, I could see that being well, there should be some sort of environmental control that handles that. Anyway, Terrell is they're searching around to figure out, okay, what is the energy reading that we think might be life? Terrell has climbed up and stopped and been like, Chekhov, get up here. Chekhov could see perhaps 100 meters. In that 100 meters lay a half-buried group of ruined buildings. These are the pieces of the Botany Bay, which I just find interesting because in the movie it seems like there's only the one. Here it's multiple, so it's a bit more developed. There's a bit more going on here. And in fact, Chekhov, coming up to a porthole, sees a child inside and then it disappears. Which Terrell thinks is, you're just seeing things, but he wants to investigate. Shouldn't, but he does. Yeah. So, and there's the next thing to talk about. They are having trouble communicating with the ship. The dude on the ship really wants it to just be open communication the entire time. But Terrell's like, nah, once every half an hour. It's like, all right, Captain. It's a bad idea, but before coming down, though, they've even warned, look, the signal, the atmosphere is so bad. If you are under tree branches, we won't be able to beam you out. So don't go under the roof of a building, which they laughed at. It's like, there aren't going to be any buildings. Well, they just found some buildings. And Terrell's like, let's go inside. And Chekhov's like, how about I go inside and you stay out here and stay in communication with Reliant? I don't like this situation. I really don't think we should go in here. And Terrell's like, nah, come on, Chekhov, we're going in. It's like, they're not even reporting in that they found these. That is actually a key criticism that I would have here. You really do need to be reporting this. You can still go and investigate. I think it's a bad decision, but that's a bad decision, good decision, whatever. Versus not reporting in. That's you're just doing it wrong now. So they're in there, and Chekhov is actually. Oh, okay. This is before they went in. So, as I said, Chekhov does not want to go in. And he's trying to convince Terrell of the same. Lenin himself said, Better part of valor is discretion. Come along, Tyrell said. His tone forbade argument. And anyway, it was Shakespeare. No, Captain, Lennon. Perhaps other fellow. Chekhov stopped and reminded himself of the way Standard was constructed. I'll explain that in a moment. Perhaps the other fellow stole it. It's like, so I do find it amusing because it was part of the Chekhov character, and it was also part of the Soviet Union that they did that. They tried to claim that everything was theirs. But also for Standard, what's that? Basically, the standard language of Earth. That yes, Chekhov did in fact learn Russian, but he's supposed to be fluent in Standard, which let's just say is English because it's Star Trek is English. Because it was made in America. How it is. But he is having some problems with sticking with Standard, even though he is fluent. Unreliant, Chekhov occasionally got teased for losing his Standard, in which he was ordinarily fluent when he was angry or very tired. The commas there would help, but Chekhov occasionally got teased for losing his Standard, in which he was ordinarily fluent, when he was angry or very tired. Or, though his shipmates had no way of knowing this, when he was terrified. Okay. So they go in. It's multiple rooms here. They are exploring. They find a kitchen that has stew being cooked with some steam coming off, so somebody was here recently. They find the glass container with sand in it that has the monsters in it, which I hate. Hate them. I'm sorry, just that there are other movies that messed with me far more seeing them as a kid. But Wrath of Khan technically did as well, with the whole thing and the climbing into the air and the screaming. It's like, nope, don't like that scene, still don't. Love Star Trek, love the movie, but that was a bit much, and it's still there for me. But eventually they do in fact find the child that's just sitting there, and Tyrell is kind of playing with the child a little bit, and Chekhov is looking around and sees some books that he doesn't see. I think you do actually spot Moby Dick in the movie, which is very appropriate. But you see King Lear, which at first he's like, must be imperialistic propaganda. I don't know enough about King Lear to know if that's actually a joke. He sees a copy of the Bible, which he refers to as 20th century mythology. It's like, no? I mean, that specific version may have been printed in the 20th century, but you could never describe it as 20th century mythology. It would... Yeah, first century mythology. I was just trying to think. Is even Revelation, because there was... I don't think John lived into the 2nd century. So it would be first century mythology. But anyway. If you were to describe it that way. So, but then he does see the insignia for the ship, and it's like Botany Bay. Oh no. And just grabs Tyrell and is like, we're going. And Tyrell's like, what? No, what are you doing? Stop this. Chekhov is having none of that. It's like, we're going. Doesn't matter if he busts me down to ensign. That's either how he's thinking, or Tyrell's like, I'm going to bust him down to ensign unless he has a very good reason. But gets pushed out. And as they're getting out, Chekhov is even going, Reliant, beam us up, beam us up, beam us up, beam us up, beam us up. Because now he understands. It's Botany Bay. That means this is Khan. This is an oh shit moment. They get outside, and he was still trying to say it, but they are surrounded, and guns are aimed at them, and it's like grabbing the phaser, but somebody lunges, takes it away. It then cuts to Reliant, where they're trying to listen in, and the dude who's even like, I want it to be open communication, still like, should have been open communication. This is very frustrating. But it's like, hang on, I think I just heard something. Boost it. We're about to short it out without much for boosting already. Process the audio then. Again. That's Chekhov's voice. What's he saying? Again. Beam us up. It's like, and it just ends with this beam us up. It's like, yeah. So, and just, yeah. Chapter 3 continues with Tyrell and Chekhov, so we're going to get to meet Khan. Alright, but that is for later. And by later, I mean, for me, tomorrow. It's late. I gotta get to bed. See you next time.